Welcome to the next frontier where imagination, innovation, technology, and new ideas come together to radically revolutionize your quality of life and to change the world around us for the better. Yes, King of Phillips is in the house.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. I mean, I kind of think about, I was listening to the intro and we're switching the intro of the show out so we have a shorter version, but that one actually, as I heard the intro coming on, I thought, you really encapsulate everything that this is about because, we're looking at how do we make our life epic, and your life is truly epic.
I have to say I'm very fortunate. My life is indeed very epic.
Very epic. So
Very.
I'm gonna say a few things about you, and then we can converse. But so here you are. You've got you do so many things. You have to be the most interesting person that I've ever interviewed, I think.
Well, I don't think I can take credit for that, but I'm going to listen to what you have to say.
Oh, is it your parents? So it's like nature, nurture, and so
my parents are pretty cool people. That
okay.
I have to give them credit for.
All right. So you popped out living an epic lifestyle. But so anyway, you've got multiple things that you've done. Like as I was, I knew about you. I knew you did a travel show and that type of thing. And so in preparing, I was Googling, and that's why I was a half hour late. And anyway, so I'm looking up and I'm watching your various reels. I watched your theatrical reels. You've been in all sorts of television shows and programs. And were you in Scandal? You did Scandal? Was that
I did.
real?
I did. That was a lot of fun.
Really? Were you were who? Washington?
No, yes, I was Washington. Exactly.
Yeah,
I
Terry Washington.
I really stepped out of character there and played a journalist.
Okay. No, but CSI, all sorts of different shows that you've done from an acting perspective. Then you've got your hosting that you do, and you've been on all sorts of different networks, from Sci-Fi to Fox Sports, and the list goes on and on and on and on. And the one thing that really stood out to me, and I'm sure you meant it to stand out, and I'm sure you meant it to stand out to me too, was
had lights around it.
Yeah, exactly. Where you said that you wanted your life to be like Quantum Leap.
I love Quantum Leap.
And you wanted to be able to jump into all these different characters and personas and times and
absolutely.
So I'm watching these hosting reels of you being shark diving in cages, skydiving, horseback riding, paddle boarding. I'm going like, what does she not do? Then I saw you wakeboarding and you kind of sucked. So
I really sucked. Did you see the ending of that and the fall and everyone laugh? Yeah.
I actually didn't see the fall, but I watched. I said, okay, there's one thing she's just starting at, because everything else, you're doing trapeze. You were. Then I saw you with Richard Branson going and what appeared to be joining the Mile High Club, but I don't think that's what you did.
We were dancing in the bathroom. We did
Okay.
the first flight from LA to New York.
Yes.
And he is such a fun guy. Like,
He's a
I
cool
get
dude.
who
I've
he
met him,
is, why he is that person, because he is just a blast and he loves life and he's a big kid. And he literally said to me, he goes, let's go dance in the bathroom. And you don't say no to him. So I went, all right, let's dance in the bathroom.
But
and
that sounds like a Bill Cosby line. Oh, sorry. I didn't.
Too soon.
Oh, too soon. Okay,
soon.
sorry.
We like Richard Branson a little bit more at this point.
I know. Here, take this. Let's go dance in the bathroom. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Take this. He did give me a drink, but I remember everything, so it was great. And then at one point he goes, why don't we just go skydiving? And in my head I went, is he serious? Like, this guy could actually be serious. Like, I have to prepare myself. And I remember thinking, I have heels on. I'm going to break an ankle landing. That was my actual thought. Like, we're going to jump out
Did you do it?
No, we would have died immediately. But when you're hanging out with Richard Branson, you kind of think whatever he says might happen. So you go with it.
I actually, I went and I spent some time on his island, on Necker Island, and I didn't know he was going to be there. There were only like 8 people on the island. I was riding up in my golf cart with my girlfriend at the time. I had just arrived. We were going up, and he comes walking down the path, and he reaches his hand out. He's like, "Hi, I'm Richard Branson." I'm like, "I know," and had a great time. That we raced sailboats around the islands. He bought the island next door while we were there for $46 million, as you do, right? And we raced sailboats around. We came back in. We won the sailboat race. And so he walked up to, my girlfriend was at the beach. He walks up to her and he's like, "Oh, were you on the winning boat?" And she said, "Oh, yes, I was." And he goes out to shake her hand. Then he takes her and he throws her in the water, and he spends a little bit more time in the water with her than I expected him to.
They went dancing.
But yeah, but I'm like, but in any case, so you live this adventurous lifestyle. And I want to know what drove you into it first.
Well, let's start at the beginning. My family was always very adventurous, and my dad, being a geologist, dragged us all over the world when we were kids. And I think it was part of our genetics. It was also a little bit of nature and nurture all at the same time. I mean, we came to Oklahoma from Poland, and my dad would do these excursions where we would take photos with roadkill, because that was the way we could see animals.
Photos with roadkill. That's kind of
I grew up with photos with roadkill.
So you could have either become a serial killer or
both.
Or both.
You
so
don't know
we don't know.
really.
That's true. We don't know everything yet.
But so it was always, the adventure was in the blood. And then, like you said, Quantum Leap to me was such an inspiration, in the sense that I always felt like you have one life. You get one shot at this. And, I'm not going to make it boring, and I don't want to do just one thing. And I had 7 majors in college. I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do, because I couldn't imagine doing just one thing for the rest of my life. And then I thought, if I'm a journalist, if I go into this world of the theatrical side too, the make-believe, but also the journalism, I get to actually experience all these different worlds in some sense, kind of like Quantum Leap. I get to jump in to all these different worlds. And I went, yeah, that really works for me. I don't have to do one thing. I get to travel around and meet cool people and experience amazing things. And it kind of developed in that way.
It's so wild, because there's, everybody wants to live their dream life, and they have all these, I'm a coach, I'm a trainer. I've done talked and spoken with a lot of people over the years, and everybody has usually a laundry list of things that they'd love to be and do and have and create in their life. Yeah, and that's the thing. Most of them look at it and they go, "Well, shoot, how am I going to do that?" It's like being a modern day Leonardo or something. And here you're actually doing it, and that's what really impressed me about. Even when I just looked at it, I thought, okay, here's a girl. She's got a travel show. Looks like she may have produced it herself, even though it's on, it's on television. But then I found out so much more. So you're right now, so you came from Poland. Your parents were Polish? Or
100%.
100% Polish. And you moved over here when you were 5. You went to Oklahoma.
Yeah, randomly from Warsaw, Poland to Bartlesville, Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's so weird, because
pretty weird.
Then you'd look at, how does somebody in Oklahoma go out and make every dream they've ever had come true? How does that happen? Like, what did you put into it? Because you got a degree. What was kind of the pathway into?
Sometimes I don't want to give myself all the credit for doing all of this. First of all, not all of my dreams have come true yet, or I could just drop dead tomorrow. There's
maybe I'm putting you on the
another
pedestal
laundry list of things that I want to accomplish. But sometimes I just feel like there's a driving force in you where you can't settle for things. And, you mentioned people look at that laundry list, and it can be really intimidating of following your dreams. But to me, it was always a lot more frightening to not, and to look back one day and say, man, I wish I had done that. Man, I wish I'd pursued that. But I was really scared too. I mean, I took a lot of falls along the way. I was telling everyone before you came in this morning that when I first came to LA 15 years ago, I lived in a studio apartment with a friend of mine, and we had couches in there that we slept on, and I ate pizza from the 99-cent store for like a year, probably, trying to get things done. So was
that in LA?
That was in LA.
Okay.
That was when I first came. So, it's definitely sometimes a bumpy ride in following what you want to do. But to me, it would just be so scary to not follow that and to not pursue it.
What were you doing at that time? Because were you wearing the chicken suit like Brad Pitt? No. What were you doing?
Well, I got really lucky, because when I first came, I did a pilot for the Travel Channel, which didn't get picked up.
When you first got here?
When I first got here, I fell off the turnip truck from Oklahoma, and I looked in this magazine, I don't even know if it still exists, called Backstage West.
I remember that.
Yeah, remember that?
Yeah.
Like we had the Thomas Guide, and we had Backstage West. That was pre-apps and everything being done on the computer and the iPhone. And I remember applying for this job, and it wasn't even paid, but they took me to Hawaii for 2 weeks, and I felt like Angelina Jolie. I went from, living getting a studio
like
apartment.
This is your moment. You've now become a star. Yeah.
My moment, and nothing really came of that.
Right.
But it was such a great experience, and it wet my whistle
Yeah.
for what was to come and what I wanted to do. And it was so exciting to me that I couldn't give up on that quest to pursue it. And I did.
Now, were you doing background work at the time?
I did,
And you went through
absolutely. I
all
did
the-
background work.
Yeah,
I
you
went
did
through
your-
everything that everyone goes through in
the
LA.
paces, yeah.
Yeah, hit all the bases. I did extra work on TV shows and movies. You know, I did stand-in work. I started my own company with a friend of mine called Integrity Promotions and Management, where we hired people for events, you know, around town. And that actually led us to be a little bit more self-sufficient in being able to pursue the dreams.
That's interesting because I remember my aunt was an actress years ago, and she did, she played a killer on Charlie's Angels once. She used to, she'd massage you, and then she'd go in and squeeze your heart, and you'd die.
Wow!
Yes,
wow!
and
It's
the
aggressive.
angels had to stop her. So, but she had done, parts like that. And I remember what she said to me when I was young. She said, and at the time I had wanted to act, and she said, "Well, become famous doing something else first." She said, and I remember that kind of stood out in my mind. But as I got more into entrepreneurialism and I started to build businesses, it sure took the edge off feeling like I had to impress anybody because I owned my own success.
Yeah.
And that's, so your business, when you launched that business, that gave you something internally.
Absolutely, because
Yeah.
it takes away almost that air of desperation that you
Right.
have in going in for meetings and I really need to book this job.
Right.
I really need to eat.
Please approve.
Because you
please,
have
yeah.
something else, and then you feel like you are genuinely following your passion rather than just doing it because you need to keep a roof over your head. And we all do. Ideally, you want to be in a career field where you keep a roof over your head while pursuing your passions. But sometimes in the way to get there, you have to develop other things for yourself in order to still be able to do that.
So when you did that, because and I want to talk about all the extraordinary things you're doing now, but when you did that, when you launched that business, did you know anything about business? Were you going into it blindly? Did you just have a lot of ambition and confidence? Did you seek out mentors, guides? What did you do?
We really didn't know anything about it other than the fact that, part of what we were doing on the side to make ends meet was doing these events where, you're basically the person who passes out, you could work for any company, a toothpaste company, and you pass out samples and do all these things. And my friend and I we were really punctual and it really doesn't take a lot to do that type of job, but everyone liked us so much. They kept saying, well, do you have friends? Do you have friends that you can bring along? And you were making a couple bucks an hour.
Right,
we were
right,
kids in our early 20s. And we got to the point where we're like, well, if we're giving them our friends, why don't we just start a company where they hire us and our friends and we run the events for them?
Got it.
And it just kind of rolled into us doing events for American Express. We traveled to Ireland. We traveled to Puerto Vallarta. We went all over the place.
That's a big
and
role.
It was great. It was great. And
yeah.
for a couple years, that was what we did to make ends meet while we were pursuing our individual goals.
So when you're traveling and you're doing all that, were you making good money?
Decent money.
Decent money?
For a kid who was
How
living
much?
on a
How
couch.
much? I'm curious. How much?
We were probably making, when I say decent, it was poverty level for most people. We're
Okay.
probably making $50,000 a year.
Okay, but you were able to go to Ireland and you were able to go.
able to go to Ireland.
Yeah.
Those were our paid trips. But for a kid who's living on a couch eating pizza from the 99-cent store,
Right.
that was huge money at the time.
For sure,
$50,000
yeah.
a year. It was $1 billion. It was amazing to us. I bought my first car
You were
off of
in that movie too. She says $1 billion. I was almost going to say you were Dr. Evil, but no, you were actually Austin Powers' mother.
Mom. Yeah. So it's really nothing more than a blip on the TV and a really fun bit
and you
of
got
pop
blown
culture.
up in a car or something?
Got blown up in a car.
There you go.
The whole most of our scenes got cut, but it's still such a fun part of pop culture that I get to hang on to. I got to be Dr. Evil's and Austin Powers' mom.
Wow. I didn't know they were brothers.
They are. Yeah. Did I just ruin the
Yeah, you ruined the
all
whole
of it for
thing.
you?
Yeah, I had no idea. So you're traveling around, and what next? How did the travel pilot come up? How did that interact with the new job that you had created for yourself?
Well, that came first. So
Okay.
I had probably literally been in LA for a couple months, and I did this pilot called E-Travelers for the Travel Channel, and we went to Hawaii. We traveled around. We flew in micro-powered hang gliders. We went scuba diving. I think it was one of my first scuba dives. It was just so neat. Well, the pilot didn't get picked up, but I was already hooked on that world, so I thought this is great. And then after that, I definitely want to pursue that, was what was in my head. And then after that, my friend Denny and I started the business, the Integrity Promotions and Management, which, you know, gave us that whopping 50 grand a year.
But the confidence
to pursue both acting and hosting jobs and journalism jobs. And you kind of took whatever came your way.
I'm going to pause you right there because we have to take a break, but we'll be right back. Okay, so we were saying that this job that you had created for yourself gave you the confidence to go after other things. So you weren't having to pursue that. You weren't having to go in and wait tables like what most people do. And you weren't
I never had to do that. I'm so lucky. Also because I'm really clumsy, so everyone else is really lucky as well that I never had to do that.
I did that. I waited tables for a while, and I hated it. I just, I know some people love it. I hated it. But I think it's brilliant that you created your own platform, and you've continued to do that, haven't you?
I have, in a sense. I mean, there's definitely an element of fate in it, and I feel very, very, very unbelievably fortunate to get to do what I do. But there is an element of creating your own path. And, you know, to me, a lot of that nowadays is branding. You really get to brand yourself in a way, and you get to think, like I said, you know, I've run the gauntlet of hosting and journalism and theatrical stuff, and there's red carpet things that I used to do. I worked for Food Network. I've done so many different things, and now I'm very focused on the travel, the adventure, that type of journalism, and you get to create that.
And why are you focused on that?
Because it's something that I love anyway.
Right.
It's, you know, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
And for me, getting to take off and go to Belize for 2 weeks with my friends and scuba dive and do cave exploring and explore Mayan ruins is something that I love to do, which is really funny because that's probably what I would turn around and do for a show anyway. And how lucky am I that I get to make something that would otherwise be my vacation a job.
See, and this is the part now that I find fascinating, especially for, you know, if I'm listening to this right now, there's this huge opportunity that seems to be opening up in the world where if people are creating their own platforms everywhere, you know, whether it be on social media, whether it be on YouTube, and they're forging their own brands. And it's the people that really grab it and go and make it happen that are the ones that get to experience it like you are. You know Marky Costello, don't you? Okay, Marky's a friend of mine. I've known her for years.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah. And I take classes with her, and I used to take classes with her before I went off on hiatus to Bali for a few years.
Ooh, that's a good hiatus.
But it's a great hiatus. But she always tells her students, and she's related to what Abbott and Costello, the old Costello from the past, and she teaches hosting, and one of the things she says is create your own platform. But that's what I've been doing all my life. And I noticed that was what you were doing all your life. Rather than wait for somebody to bestow, yes, you're good enough, or yes, you are now officially
knighted is what you want to be.
Yeah, here's your program. You've grabbed it. You've gone out and made it happen.
Well, I'm not a very patient person. It doesn't sound like you are either, in the sense that I don't want to wait for life to come to me. And again, you know, you get one shot at this, so you might as well go big or go home. And the fact that it's available now, that you can create your own platform. You can be who you want to be, whether it's, you know, people laugh at social media, they laugh at Facebook, they laugh at Instagram, and, you know, people spend all their time on it. But if you use it correctly, like, you can develop a brand.
Everything.
You have to be able to back that up.
Right.
And you definitely, it's not saying that you can just go create a brand and people are going to come to you and say, yes, I will give you the life you want. You still have to work for it.
Right.
But, you know, for instance, I have friends who the other day told me they were starting a company of bags, and immediately they have an Instagram page where they are showing people the lifestyle that you can have with these bags. They have all these different followers. And I thought, God, that is so cool.
Right.
That in the world we live in,
that fast,
you can come up with a concept. And even before you have a tangible product, you can show people, you know, the lifestyle that they can have.
Pay somebody on Fiverr or Elance to go and mock up, a description of it, and you're done.
Definitely. Yeah. They're shooting videos to put on YouTube to show, again, the lifestyle. They have an Instagram account, you know, they have a Facebook account, and you can do that with anything. I do that with my brand, which is adventure travel.
And see, that's what I think is neat. Like, when you look at The shows that you've had, you have a travel show that you're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
I work with Travel Channel now. I did National Geographic a couple years ago, which was great.
You had a show called The Quest.
Legend Quest on Sci-Fi, where we traveled around the world looking for artifacts.
I think that is so, okay, you know what?
Great.
I want to ask you about the how-to more, but I got to hear about this because that sounds so cool. So you got the show on National Geographic, The Quest, and you were traveling. Can you tell?
Well, that one was sci-fi. It was called Legend Quest, and we traveled all over the world looking for artifacts. Everything.
You were traveling with a historian or something, or with an archaeologist?
He was a symbologist. He was Ashley Cowie. He was a symbologist and a really funny Scotsman. He was great.
Symbologist, like
a Knight Templar.
Oh, you're kidding me!
Yeah, he was cool.
Oh, so he had all
lot of fun.
Wow, the mythology and the history and the richness. Oh, wow!
Exactly. So we teamed up, and I was a producer on that show, on-air producer and co-host, and we went all over the world looking for Solomon's Ring, the Holy Grail. I mean, we went to Ethiopia, went to the Philippines.
Did you look for the Emerald Tablet?
We didn't look for the Emerald Tablet. If we had gone more seasons, we definitely would have.
Oh my God!
But I mean, the Book of Thoth, like you name it, we look for it, and
that
it was
so cool.
Such a cool show from the perspective of it was intelligent, because even though we were looking for things that, well, chances are we're not going to find.
They could, yeah.
You know, not
Did
to say
you find
that I don't.
Anything?
Let me ask you that. The Holy Grail is under my bed right now.
You got the Holy
Grail.
It's under your bed.
It's under my bed. I'm just hanging on to it for science, for future. Right. But it was neat because it was a historically significant show in the sense that we were jumping off of either biblical or cultural points of interest.
Who dreamed it up?
That was a show that was created by Base Productions and Sci-Fi themselves.
So they did they go out looking for talent to fill the roles, and you became the talent,
or
were you on board from the beginning?
No, they brought me in because of the background that I had with travel, with adventure, with producing, and I was also the only girl on an all-man team. So they needed someone who could handle sleeping in a tent at the peak of the Andes in the cold and not complain about it. So, and I went, me, take me. I love that kind of stuff. I won't complain.
Wow.
We had a lot of fun on that show.
That just sounds brilliant. That sounds like such an adventure and just brilliant.
It was such an adventure. It was such a brilliant show.
And how long did that last?
That one went a season.
Okay.
It was only one season because it was a really expensive show to do. I mean, for a half-hour episode, we were jumping around 3 different countries.
Yeah, any kind of travel show. A buddy of mine, Scott Mednick, who's the producer, he does a lot of, he just did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But he said every year, The Amazing Race wins all the awards because nobody can figure out how they actually pull it off because of the costs involved with the travel and stuff. So National Geographic was footing the bill on that. Or I'm sorry, that was sci-fi. That was sci-fi.
That was sci-fi.
Okay, got it. And then, so you didn't produce that on your own. Are you producing the current show on your own? Or you were listed as producer, but you weren't putting your own money into it.
No. That was just me producing and helping create. Right. The current show I'm not producing because I don't have the time to. The Reel on Travel Channel, but I work really closely with my EP. I like to produce it as much as I possibly can because I think it's important to have your own voice.
Now, when you say produce, if we were to separate it out, being the person that raises the money from being the person that oversees the overall production, right?
When I produce, I usually come in from the creative side.
The creative side.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So then the networks or whatever will go and raise the capital to infuse in.
Absolutely. Or production companies. You can go into a production company, you can pitch a show idea, they take it to a network, and then it kind of becomes, a game of fundraising, who's going to put up for the pilot, who's going to develop it. I mean, it's such an interesting world that we live in because there are so many different pathways to your final goal, which is, having an exciting, cool show on the air that you're a part of.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And I know that everybody says if you hold on to if you go out there and put the show together, the more you have done, the better a deal you'll get. And, whether you're paid as talent or you're paid as I know all that stuff weighs in.
Sure.
When and then I have another friend, Gary Goldstein, who he was the producer of Pretty Woman, and he was a creative producer, much in the same way that you are. He wasn't the money guy. He was the guy that he brought the story and sold the story to Disney at first, and then it went someplace else, and blah 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 blah. So you play more on the creative side.
I do. Yeah. I do.
And were you at any point as you were doing shows and creating shows, were you going and were you pitching the shows yourself?
We do. I have a producing partner, and him and I pitch shows together all the time, which is, a lot of fun. You go out and you shoot the sizzle reel. You come up with a concept. You get someone interested. You shoot a little sizzle reel. You present it to the production companies. It's fun because it is very creative. That obviously you fund yourself when you're doing that sort of thing, and then you work with a production company on creating a pilot, on developing things. So
see, that's how, when I did my first books, I didn't want to wait for a literary agency to take it on. I self-published and then sold it to them. It was like you just start doing it. And I see I think so many people have in their mind that they have to wait until they're discovered or something falls on them or providence comes their way, and then all of a sudden they're going to have it. But here you start making it. You start creating the dream.
And you can. And I think that's such a great message that you really can. I mean, you with the books, that's such a, that's obvious. But yet at the same time, to a lot of people, it's not, because they feel like, oh, I have, this manuscript for a book. I have to sell it to someone. And sure, it takes a little bit of money. It takes a little bit of inventiveness to self-publish and then be able to sell that. But it can be done. Again, it's looking at that laundry list of these are my dreams and my goals, and being able to find a way without waiting for someone to hand it to you.
Without throwing up all the roadblocks before you start.
Definitely.
What's been your favorite show so far that you've done?
Oh my gosh. I mean, there have been so many. The one on Sci-Fi, Legend Quest, was wonderful just because it was so much international travel and going to places that, I normally wouldn't have the opportunity to go, and meeting the people along the way. And travel is just such a wonderful way to gain perspective on life anyway. And to be doing this in the capacity of work, I mean, that was one of my favorite times in life. I think we were on the road for several months, and I could have just kept going. Could have been a gypsy.
Yeah, you are a gypsy.
I kind of am, and I like it.
So, and one of the things that I noticed also is you're really good at what you do. I mean, you know how to punch the right things. I mean, if you were just a broadcast voice minus the face, you would hit it right where people hear it. Then you add the package together. So you're really good at what you do. How did you train? How did you study? What brought you to the skill level that you have?
Well, thank you, first of all, because I never feel like I'm accomplished in what I do. I feel honestly like I just am so fortunate that people continue to take chances on me. As my training was really experience. I mean, I didn't take any formal classes. My degree is in broadcast journalism, but that was more of a writing background, and some of it was on air, whether it be radio or TV. But college gives you such a glimpse into the education of what you potentially can have experiencing life.
What do you mean by that?
I think college gives you a foundation of the how to educate yourself. I mean, no one comes out of college and goes, I know how to do this. Right. I've got it, guys, I've got it. You learn how to learn is basically what I think.
How much study's required and how much.
Sure, and it puts you on a path. Work ethic, I think, is a great something that college gives you. And again, learning how to learn is important because some people don't know how to learn, or they don't know how to follow and find what it is that they want. And then when I came to LA and just kind of started stumbling into things, I took a lot of non-paid jobs to go do on-air things to become familiar with a world that is very specific and how to get better at it.
You weren't above anything when you came
No way.
Yeah.
I'm still not.
Yeah.
I'm still not. I'm still a kid who gets to play for a living, and I feel so lucky and excited with every opportunity and every show and every producing opportunity that I get. I kind of clap my hands together and go, oh, goody, someone hired me for something. This is great, which is...
So you never did acting or improv because you had your own comedy sketch show too?
On
I don't know if you still do. On Fox Sports.
I did a comedy sketch show for them. No, I never really had a formal training background. I took a couple acting classes, which was really, really fun. But most of it was just, I want to do this and I'm going to find a way.
Who'd you study acting with when you went?
I did, oh my gosh. Oh, Howard Fine. I did Howard Fine, who's really well known. Yeah. And then there was another gentleman whose name I can't think of at the moment, but he was really great. It was an on-camera class. And then I took some theatrical classes in college as well.
Okay, cool.
Which was fun. But experience, I mean, it was, 1% training and 99% experience for me, which is the best way, in my opinion, to learn.
Absolutely. And then when you look at, you've got the hosting type stuff that you do, then you've got the acting type stuff. What do you prefer?
Neither. And I get that question a lot. Yeah. And my standard answer is, it's like someone asking if you like ice cream or steak.
Answer?
Well, it's the standard answer because I've thought about it and I put effort into this answer. So I like it. I always say it's like asking someone if they like ice cream or steak. And the answer is, I love both, but they're completely different.
Right.
And what's great, though, is that they're very symbiotic to me. When you travel for journalism, it gives you this world of experience. And that is super helpful. That's probably the best acting class I've ever taken in my life. Whereas in acting, being able to play someone who is not you at all, and some of the roles I've had are, about as far from me as you can possibly get. It's also really nice to be able to step away from that, because in journalism, you're obviously a version of yourself. You're never 100% you because there's a camera pointed at you, and you're not yourself as you are in your room at home, but you're so much yourself that it's nice to be able to step away from that and play a character.
Oh, so it's just fun.
It's
just
fun.
Playing.
It's fun. It's fun. And it's also, a creative statement and something you're putting out there, and getting to, develop a character is a blast.
Cool. We got to take a break. All right. So now one of the things that I noticed also is with the Fox broadcasting, with the sports, has sports been a big part of your brand? I know it was there in the past. It doesn't look like team sports.
No, the answer to that is not really.
Yeah.
And where I've been really fortunate is I've stumbled into a lot of things where I've been able to participate in things that I really don't have a lot of expertise in. I mean, I'm definitely more action sports. Like to me, surfing, skydiving, freediving,
solo sport type thing, action sport. Yeah.
That type of, that's my background and that's what I enjoy. But I love the opportunity to get to participate in something that I'm not that familiar with and to learn about it. And that's another, creative element that I think people don't realize is if you educate yourself a little bit on something, you might not be an expert in the field, but you can definitely pull your weight. And when I came into Fox Sports, it was on almost a fluke. A friend of mine was the executive producer who I surf with at the beach. And he said, hey, listen, I need someone to do these broadcasts for me. And I went, do not ever put me in a live situation, because who knows what will come out of my mouth. I don't know anything about sports. And he goes, well, can you write and research? And I went, heck yeah, I can. And there went my relationship with Fox Sports. And then we started doing this funny comedy skit, like just absolutely absurd and ridiculous.
It was absurd. It was ridiculous because I watched a couple of them. And the thing is, though, like, do you have a passion for group sports?
I really don't.
You don't.
I'm going to admit that. I really don't.
Because I'm watching them going, how does she infuse it with such enthusiasm? Where she must be a real fan, so you pulled it off.
I pulled it off, but it was also fun. And in everything, you have to find your niche.
Yeah.
And in the sports, for me, it was, I loved the research of it. Yeah. I loved the sketch comedy.
Right. You had a unique voice about it, which.
Yes, and that was it. It's finding your voice in whatever it is. I mean, I'm fortunate in the sense that so many of the things I've gotten to do along the way are in my groove of what I love. But there have been definitely things that I'm not uber passionate about, but yet I've still been able to find something in them that makes me really happy or that I get to enjoy. And that's why they kind of tossed me into the sketch comedy angle of it, because that I loved and we had such a good time doing it.
People should check this out if they haven't checked it out, because she's doing little popsicle sticks with Michael Jordan, I think, on it, and this other guy. And you did a child book thing where you opened it up and says, let's tell the story about, and it's so counter to what most sports presenters or broadcasters would do that it makes it very, very humorous. And it's like, wow. And what I got from that was just the injection of something very unique in a way that pulled it off. And it's like, if you weren't a sports fanatic, you fooled me.
Well, it
because
was
of the unique way you did it.
It was a lot of fun. And that was a creative endeavor because myself and the producer basically created most of those costumes and props came from my house. And, the guys would sit there, like these sports guys would be doing arts and crafts, creating that little book and the popsicle sticks. And it was so cool, like to see these guys come up with these creative ideas and then just do it. And we had this tiny little room, way smaller than this, to shoot in. And we just had a blast doing it.
That's funny. And then, so it seems to me, and I think you've said it as well, that you became clearer and clearer about your own personal identity and brand along the way and
Definitely.
what it was. Yeah.
Most definitely. And the fun thing about that and about life is that can still change at any moment. I started doing more. I did the red carpet stuff. I did the sports stuff. I worked for Food Network. I did food stuff. I did, shows about movies, all kinds of shows. And lately, I've been doing a lot more of the travel, the adventure, the history.
Because it's you.
Because it's me. Yeah. And it's what appeals to me and it's what I love. Yeah. And passion always shines through. If it shines through in the sports stuff, I'm glad to hear that. But what I do now is definitely in line with what I'm so passionate about and getting to develop that and create it. It's the magic. It's magic. It really is.
And that's the magic. And I think there's so many people that are looking for that. I remember I spoke with a woman. She was working for, she was from London, and she was working for like Barclays. Is Barclays Bank in London? Are they based in the UK?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean either. But she was working for a big bank, and she had this dream of just traveling around the world. And at the time, this is a few years back, I said, well, why don't you do a TV show about it and do, you can broadcast on YouTube, you can create your own thing. And she said, really? Is that possible to do? And I said, yeah, why not? Take the dream and turn it into something. And that's exactly what you're doing. There's so many people that just do not see it as being possible, do not see it. I think one of the big things that comes up in people's minds is, how could I possibly make it lucrative? How could I possibly make money doing what I love? And I think you're getting paid these days, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm not living in my Prius, so that's good.
That's good.
Although it's really comfortable. You could sleep in the back. I've tried it for camping, but I'm fortunate that I'm not, and it's, you do have to, when I talk about being able to create your brand and how the social media, you have the availability to do that, you do have to be creative and innovative with making it lucrative, because at the end of the day, we all need to eat, especially me, I love to eat. Yeah. We need to be able to
keep heard, actually. We've got, people said, what did they call you on
the
set?
The food beast.
The food beast.
I love
And why did they call you the food beast?
Because I can out-eat like a grown, large cameraman on set.
Okay, and we were just going in a really good direction, but I have to know now. If you were sleeping in tents in the Andes, and where's the worst food that you've ever been?
The worst food? Oh, I don't consider any food bad food. We've had some weird food.
What's the weirdest thing? Yeah.
Well, when we were in the Philippines, we ate something called balut, which they sell by the side of the road in these canisters, and it's basically a fertilized egg. I'm not sure if it's chicken or duck, to be honest. It might be either or both. And
also, it's got something in it.
It's got something in it. It's got the embryo in it, and it's.
So you ate babies.
Yeah, I ate babies. You're going to cut that and just put that out there into the world. King eats babies.
So, and what was it like?
It tastes like a marinated egg with a little bit more crunch to it because the embryo is developing bone. So that's interesting. We were also in Ethiopia, and we were served something that we had truly no idea what it was. It was some kind of a meat. I have no idea, but it was delicious. My palate is very open. I'm Polish.
It was probably
we eat pig's
Soylent
feet.
Green. Do you remember that movie, Soylent Green?
No.
That was before your time, probably.
No.
You're 6 years younger than us.
Slightly Green?
Soylent Green.
Oh, Soylent
It was
Green.
people. There was a movie called Soylent Green with Charlton Heston, and it was actually people. And they, once people got too old, they turned them into food.
Them.
Yeah, and nobody knew that Soylent Green was people. But anyway.
Oh, man.
So
I'm hoping that wasn't it.
I don't know what was it you ate.
But they were delicious if it was.
The worst food I ever ate was in Mongolia. I went to Mongolia, and it was horrible. They actually had a Mongolian barbecue in Mongolia. Like, how they do those?
Yeah, they do them here.
But it was owned by an American. It was the only one in Mongolia.
Sounds so counterintuitive.
Yeah. So what they do in Mongolia is they give you just these things of lamb and a paper cutter that has it's not sharp. It's like an envelope opener, and they give you this big piece of lamb, and it's all fatty. And I think I starved for a week in Mongolia, and in Peru we ate guinea pig.
I had guinea pig in Peru.
I actually didn't eat it.
Oh,
you
I
liked
did.
it.
And maybe I'm a jerk because I had a pet guinea pig growing up. So
wow, that's sacrilegious. Yeah. So I hid mine and pretended to eat it because there's this little. We went and we were building a high school library in Peru for these people, for this little village, and you knew it was their only food that they had for and they had saved it all up and they were gifting it to us, but I couldn't do it. I hid it and I pretended to eat the guinea pig.
You didn't eat the food that they saved up and gave to you?
I know. Yeah, they starved for
You're a bigger jerk than I am for eating guinea pig.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So back to we're talking about this thing of finding your brand, and you said you have to be intelligent about how you do it in the social media.
Sure, you have to find ways to create it in a way that's viable, that is going to allow you to make this a career.
To actually make money.
Sure, and definitely, and it's a different path for everyone. I mean, for me, getting to do the things that I've done and starting from a couch, I think our apartment cost like $600 a month, and we were both like $300 a month. I can't believe we have to.
This is like a Tony Robbins story. You were living on your couch, eating pizza,
eating from the 99-cent store, mind you.
And now you travel the world.
And now I get to travel the world, and not as successful as Tony Robbins, of course, but I do get to do what I love, and then finding ways to kind of have symbiotic relationships with brands. Like sponsorships is a really big deal for me.
So did you bring in your own sponsorships along the way?
In some ways I did, and I've been able to combine efforts with some of these sponsorships. I mean, for instance, I did a show for Universal Sports called The Last 26 where I ran a marathon. I do not run at all, at all. And with that, I brought in a charity that I work with called Waves for Water, who they travel all over the world bringing water filters to people in need, which is phenomenal. And with that marathon, we raised money for Waves for Water. I leave next week to go to Colombia to deliver these water filters. And I'm trying to pull some of the sponsors who I've worked with over the years to come and help fund this mission. So I create these symbiotic relationships where I can, where, it also is branding for me to be able to get to go do these things, which then, creates more of a buzz, brings me more sponsorships, more opportunities.
So there's a lot of creativity around creative financing and creative orchestration of these various things that helps to elevate and create and keep your brand momentum.
Absolutely. Last year I worked with Hilton Garden Inn, which, obviously is the hotel brand, and they came to me because they liked the brand that I had, and they had a campaign called Declare Your Own Holiday, Discover, Connect, Breathe, and they went, wow, you really live that brand. We've looked at your social media. We've looked at your Instagram. You travel the world. We look at your Facebook. This is what you do. We want you to be the face of our brand.
Right.
And I went, oh, that's super cool. And I pitched them ideas in turn, and we had this wonderful symbiotic relationship. So, getting to work with people like that who come on board and finance things that you do, whether it's in the humanitarian world or whether it's for shows that I do, is really neat. And along the way, you develop these relationships, and you have to know how to use them.
And you're doing good in the process. So it's almost a social entrepreneurial, from a couple of perspectives, social media and social making a difference through what it is that you do. I went and I had done some work after I went to Necker Island. Richard Branson's team had set me up with a guy by the name of Taddy Bletcher, who launched the first free university in South Africa. So we flew over to South Africa. I brought like 30 coaches out there, and we were teaching these kids at this school, about 300 kids. Half of them had lost their families to AIDS. Wow. So and we were teaching them about how to take charge of their lives and to make things work. And while I was out there, the head of Virgin Mobile came over and met with us. And I said, I had noticed that the Virgin marketing strategy had shifted from the antics of Richard to being more socially conscious efforts. Mm-hmm. And that was a major part of their marketing strategy, was doing good. And so I asked, is their goal really to make the difference and to do good? Is it really on the social front, or is that just a marketing move? And he said, why can't it be both?
Right.
He said, why? Yeah, if you're going to get great branding from going out and making an impact in people's lives, why can't it be both? And that's,
absolutely.
So it sounds like you've been able to fuse that into what you're doing.
Yeah.
Have you done it in other places as well, or is it here? You're the water.
The Waves for Water, the organization. Trying to bring donations for filters, to get to go to Colombia, to deliver these, to teach people how to use them. You know, that's obviously something that came to me through my partnership with Universal Sports, and then trying to bring sponsors on board with that, which is lovely. You know, you use these relationships too that you develop in creating shows. And like I said, I have a producing partner, and we shoot sizzle reels. We pitch them to production companies. You know, I have an ongoing relationship with Travel Channel, so we're working on the shows that we're working on now, but always trying to develop new ones.
You got something new in the pipeline.
Yeah, like you always have to have something new in the pipeline, always. Whether it's, you know, bringing in sponsors to help fund sizzle reels that you're shooting for shows, or whether it's bringing people in and, you know, finding kind of the puzzle pieces of where people fit best to do these humanitarian aid missions. It just, you work with what you have. And you're lucky if in the process you get to create a life for yourself that is, you know, viable as a career as well as a passion.
How do you make your choices in terms of what to involve yourself with at this point?
A lot of it is intuition. It really is. You know, like you said, and I said, there's nothing that I'm above. I don't feel like, oh, I've gotten to a point in my career, I'm going to pass on all these things. Like I look at everything that comes my way, you know, and sometimes it's a gut feeling that I go, wow, you know what, this thing really hardly pays any money, but it sure looks like fun. Yeah. Or the people who are involved are really cool and they're doing something positive. And I find that intuition usually guides you in the right direction. That sometimes something that maybe wasn't financially lucrative has turned into an opportunity that has later become so through the relationships that have been creative.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So intuition, I think that gut force, your inner compass, as I call it, is definitely worth listening to.
That's your next book. Okay, let's.
Compass.
They're saying we got to take another break.
Okay.
Here we go. So you follow your intuition in terms of what projects to get involved with, and I get that. It's like what's going to enhance your life.
Yeah.
And you do have to be cognizant about the money. And I want to just go back for a second to being able to, because I think there's a lot of people right now that are launching into social media. They're going, okay, there's something here. I've got to build a Facebook presence, but it's being done kind of blindly without without an idea of how do I monetize this? How do I turn my passion into profit? How do I do that? What do you say to that? Like if somebody was coming to you and saying, you know, I've got this Facebook thing, you're friends with the bags, or I've got this great idea.
Yeah.
What do I do? Where's the first place to monetize something like that?
Well, it's funny because I get a lot of emails from people saying, wow, you do really cool things for a living. How do I get into doing what you're doing? And there's really no standard answer, and there's really no standard path.
I think I sent you an email like that a year ago.
I probably sent you one like that. But I think that, you know, you have to have a clear vision. And that vision, honestly, will probably change, and it'll ebb and flow. And you also have to have a lot of flexibility, and you have to kind of see what in the world is going on. You know, what's happening, in a sense that you can plug yourself into what's
working.
What's that?
What's working?
What's working, exactly. Yeah. What's working, where there's a need for something, where you can really stand out. I think obviously in a society where we are just overstimulated, there is an abundance of information for people to sort through. You have to really find a way to stand out. You have to have, I think, a directive. You have to have a mission. You have to really have an idea of what it is that you want to put out there. And then you have to have an idea of the doors to knock on. You know, when people come to me and they say, hey, I want to be a travel host. What do I do? You know, I tell them, well, okay, so here are your steps. You know, start to build your brand. You want to have a YouTube channel, do your Instagram, your Facebook, all your social media, and create this brand of how you want to appear in a unique way that might interest people. You clearly have to get an agent. You want to talk to production companies. You do have an idea for a show, write it down, shoot a sizzle reel, start pitching. You know, I'm not a believer really in luck, but I am a believer in fate, you know, and you have a hand in that. You have a hand in creating your own fate. Do you want to get some investors? Do you have a project that's really, really great that you think is unique, and you can do this mock-up on social media of the lifestyle that it represents? And can you get people interested so that you can get some kind of a financial backing in that? I mean, call your aunts and your uncles first. Right. So I think money, that dollar sign, is so, it's such a roadblock for people. It's such a stumbling block.
But it's not real.
It's not real, you know, and it's honestly, people say, I think the wisest people say money is the easiest thing to get in the world. And it is, and it doesn't even take a lot to be able to jumpstart something. I mean, heck, start a Kickstarter program.
Right. Have you done one? I'm curious.
I haven't done a Kickstarter program, but I've definitely donated to a lot.
Have you really?
I have, because there are some great ideas out there that need a little bit of push, that need a little bit of backing. So again, in the world that we live in, there are so many opportunities to be able to do something like that. But, I haven't done Kickstarter, but in the sense of like, say, the water filters, I did a program for when I was running the New York City Marathon in 2013 that it encouraged people to donate money to these filters. And now we have these filters that are going to change the lives of 40 families in Colombia.
That's
so
cool.
There are so many opportunities, whether it's for yourself or whether it's for a charity, that you can find a way to have a financial means. Or like my friend and I, we started a business to fund our dream. And that business was simply kind of like a voila moment where we went, oh God, there's a need for this. Like people are hiring us to do this thing. Why don't we start a business where we do this? And knocked on a bunch of doors and got people to bring us on board. So you have to be inventive. You have to be creative. You have to have a vision. Throwing spaghetti against the wall will work sometimes if something sticks, but I think you need to be a little bit more selective with the spaghetti that you're throwing and reach out to people. Like I always, when someone reaches out to me and asks a question, I always respond because I know the value of someone saying to me in the beginning, I would ask questions. Well, how did you get to where you are? How did you get on this show? How did you get to do this project? Where did you get the funding for your project? Talking to people. And it also makes it some real. If it happened for that person, why can't it happen for me?
Yeah.
No one's better than anybody else. We can all do it.
So you're playing a mentoring role of sorts with all the messages that you get and the things that you...
As much as I can.
As much as you can. Sorry, we're going to go broadcast this and then you're going to get flooded and you'll have to start charging and then you'll see the need and all of a sudden the world is going to change and now you've got your mentor show.
Well, I don't mean as much as I can in the sense that so many people are coming to me. That's definitely not the case. But as much as I can in the information that I have to offer, because I'm by no means someone who's an expert in this. I'm kind of stumbling through life too. And I've definitely been fortunate and had all these great opportunities, but there's always something new that I'm working towards, that I'm looking for. So we're all knocking on the doors of life, looking for what's next for us.
Yeah, for sure. So like Personally, I think you're really cool. I think you're neat.
Well,
thanks. And I think the life that you've been able to create for yourself is really pretty amazing. And like I said when we started, you're probably the most interesting person that I've ever interviewed because you've got such a wide scope and a breadth of different things that you dip your toes into and that you get to play in. Your life seems like playing in a sandbox. And I'm sure a lot of it is projection because nobody's life is perfect, right? But it just seems like a lot of fun. You seem like you have a lot of fun.
Well, I love the term playing in a sandbox because it's true. I mean, of course, we all have difficulties. There are things we aspire to that we're looking for that we still want to have. But I definitely can't pretend that my life's not great. I am so fortunate in what I get to do. And it really is like playing. I think my tagline on Facebook when it says work, and mine says a person who gets to do really cool things for a living. And it's true. I get paid to play and to do wonderful things. And, did I have a hand in developing that? Absolutely.
I had two hands in developing it.
I had two hands and all 10 fingers going.
You kind of underplay it a little bit. You developed it yourself.
As much as I could, as much as I could. And I continue to do so. But yet I feel so fortunate and blessed every second of every day that these things continue to come my way. And, by grace alone, I get to keep working in this industry that I love so much and getting to play for a living.
I'm going to ask you a question that
Sure.
What do you think it is, what quality or trait about you that as you've got the momentum and you're moving in the direction that you want, what do you think draws in the people and the resources and the opportunities above all else for you, the quality or trait that you have?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say flexibility is a big one because again, there's nothing that I just immediately pass on. There's nothing that I go, oh yeah, no, I'm not interested in this. There's also nothing, like for example, the Fox Sports, when I told you that I don't really know anything about sports, but I remember the wisest words of my college professor in journalism. And he said, in life, if you're not in over your head, you're not in deep enough. And those words have always stuck with me. And I think they're so powerful.
Yeah, thank God. I must be deep enough. That's what I...
I'm married.
Yeah, I'm married.
But he was basically saying, you know, I think people pass on a lot of things in life because they're afraid, like, oh, I'm not good enough. I don't know how to do this. Oh my gosh, you know, no one's ever going to believe me that I can do this. And I've never said that. Like, I've always said, yes, sure, absolutely. And the truth is, you know, you were saying earlier, and I meant to interrupt you when you said, oh, you're so good at all these different
Interrupt
things.
me when you want.
And I
said you sucked at wakeboarding.
I did suck at wakeboarding. But what I wanted to point out is that in reality, what people don't know is that I suck at a lot of things. I'm just willing to try everything. You know, for Travel Channel, they came to me and they said, we're going to get you kite surfing. And I went, well, I don't kite surf, guys. This is really a bad idea. But I went, yeah, sure. And I got the tar beat out of me, but I did it.
Did you start on the beach?
I didn't. We had one day. I mean, it takes a good 5 days to actually really get going. And, you know, they start you on the beach. They body drag you in the water.
I got body dragged in the sand. I did it at Necker Island. And then we went out in the water, and I think I tried once, and that was it.
And you were like, I'm done.
I think I'm done, yeah.
It's tough. It's tough. But a lot of things are. And what I've learned, what has opened a lot of doors of opportunity for me, is just saying, yeah, sure, absolutely, I'll do it. Oh, you want me to talk about sports? Yeah, okay, I'll do it. You want me to kite surf? Yeah, I'll do it. Sure, absolutely. Food? Yeah, I had a food blog. I'm good with food. I can do that. It's, you know, and you don't, the secret in life sometimes is you don't really have to be an expert in something, but you have to be a willing participant, and you have to be flexible, and you have to be willing to kind of go along for the ride. And that has paid off in mounds and loads for me in life.
What would you say is the best part of what you do for you? What excites you most about what you do?
The fact that my work never feels like work. That if I have a 4:30 a.m. call time, I wake up and I'm really excited about it. The fact that I can't remember having woken up and gone, oh man, what a drag today. You know, and that puts the biggest smile on my face that I really enjoy. And there's also something that has kind of really baffled me in the 15 years I've been in this business, that every show I've ever done, every project I've ever worked on, I have always worked with the greatest people. And there's some kind of energy that protects me in some way. Like, you hear people of these terrible Hollywood experiences,
right,
and you know, scary and creepy and uncomfortable, and, you know, worthy of a 60-minute story.
Right.
I've never had anything like that. And knock on wood, you know, I'm so fortunate that everyone I've ever worked with in films and television and hosted shows and whatever, I've worked with just the neatest, coolest, most awesome, flexible, fun, exciting people who have inspired me so much. And maybe that's why I wake up at 4:30 in the morning going, yay, I love my life.
4:30 in the morning.
Yeah, sometimes.
I wake up and I'm like, I need to go back to sleep.
I do like naps. I do like naps.
So as you look out in the future, what inspires you most about what you got ahead of you?
Oh, well, people inspire me. You know, I constantly look at people who have made their way. I mean, everyone I meet in a day, I look at and I go, gosh, this is so cool. This person has made their way in the world and they're pursuing something that they love. I love new information. I love working on projects and meeting people who have different passions or who have pursued their dreams in different ways and getting exposed to something that I didn't really, you know, notice in life per se. I am constantly inspired by people's passions and by people's paths. I always say a passion can override a lot of different things.
Yeah.
You know, people can be kooky and weird and wacky and silly, but if they have a passion for something, that I'm inspired by that.
So what you're saying is, thank God you're passionate, Chris.
Yes.
Now, what project do you have on your plate? What future goal that inspires you, or you look at and you go, man, I'm excited. I want to see that happen. Or are there? And it may be, I don't know if you can talk about it openly.
Well, there are a couple I can, a couple I can't. You know, I do the show for Travel Channel called The Real, which is really fun. We did The Real Malibu. We're going to do The Real Aspen in mid.
Oh, nice. What's that show about?
And that show is kind of taking a location like a Malibu or an Aspen and showing the flip side. You know, because most of these locations, people have an idea. It is beautiful. I love Aspen. It's gorgeous. But there's always more to the story. And it's not at all a negative perspective, but it's a deeper digging into a certain city outside of the postcard perfect exterior that we tend to visualize. So, you know, for example, we came to Malibu and we did a piece. That was the first place that we started because I live there. And Malibu is amazing. And it is postcard perfect in a lot of ways. But we dug into the history of Malibu, the Ringe family, Valley and how that was all a big ranch. And May Ringe fought so hard against having PCH come in. It's why we don't have the railroad coming through Malibu, because, you know, she found a loophole and built her own railroad, and how, you know, it's such a cool historical story, and how to this day, the people of Malibu kind of fight against big development. And we have this whole battle going on against bringing in the sewage system, which we're on septic right now, which actually they are going to bring in the sewage system. But we don't want Malibu to ever become overdeveloped and turn into a Laguna Beach. How some of the breaks have changed over the years. Surf breaks have changed over the years because they've built, for instance, the Malibu Lagoon, which was this really great project, but it turned out not to really be that great, and has really affected the surf breaks there. So we kind of touched on these things that you really wouldn't know about the city, you know, historically, or with kind of the attitude of the population there, which is still a little bit, Malibu is a little bit of the Wild West to it. I love it. That's why I live there.
It's a neat area. Yeah, that's
such a neat area. And those are the things that people probably don't know about when they hear of Malibu. You know, Malibu Barbie, you know, Malibu, the home of the movie stars. You know, it's has so many connotations to it, but so many more when you dig below the surface.
Yeah, and I can only imagine Aspen sounds like that would be a lot of fun to break down. It's just, I've only gone for Christmas or New Year's, and I'll stay in a ski out hotel just because I think it's cool. I'm not that great at skiing, but I'm not bad. Come on, Chris, give yourself a little credit.
Pat yourself on the back.
I can't snowboard. I've been up. Do you snowboard? Do you snowboard?
Well, I'm going to snowboard for this piece, but that's really funny because that goes back to me saying that I'm really not that good at a lot of things. But I'm like, sure, I don't snowboard at all. I used to ski, but I'm definitely more of an ocean person than I am a winter person. But they said, okay, you're going to snowboard. And I went, all right, I'll take a couple lessons beforehand. Sure, yeah, you got it. I'll snowboard. So see, I just jumped into things.
We got to wrap now right now. But if you were to look back and give yourself a piece of advice about how to get to where you are right now, when you were 10 years old, what would you say?
Override your fear with passion. Don't let fear inhibit what you want to do.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're awesome.
So are you.
All right. That's a wrap. We'll see you on the next episode. And until then, love deeply, shine brightly, make every day an extraordinary adventure.